Basilio Subos.
Diane Stefani.
Scott Nelson. And Jim Baumstark was here at the start of the meeting. He had to leave to go to work.
Julie Moon.
James Dolan.
Alex Kamalevich.
Thank you. So welcome to our February meeting. Now we'll move to Section C. I need to ask for a motion and a second to approve the agenda.
So moved. Dolan.
Second, Stefani.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the approval of the December 16th public hearing, regular and executive session minutes. May I have a motion and second to approve the public hearing, regular and executive session minutes?
So moved, Kamalevich.
Second, Moon.
Gabby, may I have a roll call?
Stefani,
Aye.
Supos, Nelson,
Aye.
Dolan,
Aye.
Kamalevich,
Aye.
Moon.
Aye.
Motion carries. And now we're at our communications section. Dr. Deli?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to those who are in our audience joining us this evening and those who are at home or wherever you might be watching from afar. While it might not feel anything like summer, there's been a lot of organizational work and planning taking place relative to our Title I summer programmings for students in need. And as you'll see in a minute, I'm going to ask Raquel Kim to help us just walk through some of our planning efforts and the partnerships that you'll see here. But hopefully you'll be able to see the strong interagency relationships that exist in our community, and in particular how we stand ready to serve students in need over the summer months. So I guess, Raquel, with that, would you like to share some slides?
Dr. And Becca's going to bring them up in a little bit. Thank you so much. We received a significant amount of money, additional funding from Title I this year, and we reached out to our community partners asking if they could support in the development of programs and provide also the resources and the space to help our students continue their learning over the summer. So we want to walk you through some of the partnerships that we've secured for the summer. And we do want to give a special thanks to the Deborah Galfand Foundation, who generously provides additional resources to students so that they can have a complete summer experience. Sometimes at the camps, there are certain items that need to be purchased, and they're able to provide those additional items to our students. So we are lucky to be able to partner with a number of partners this year. Youth Services, Glenview Northbrook. I'll walk you through specifically what they've developed for us. Glenview Public Library, we've worked with them for several years. Glenview Park District, we're in our third year. We're offering summer camp. And new this year is the partnership with Wesley Child Care Center that will be providing a summer camp, along with Glenbrook South, who created a special STEM camp for our students. So here are just some brief details about the Glenview Park District. They are offering an 8-week program to our students, and it is a full-day experience that will be hosted either at Park Center or at TM Middle School. We will be able to pay for the camp and also provide transportation to up to 40 students. And then GBS created a special 1-week STEM camp for our students. They'll be able to work in their STEM labs over at the high school with the high school students who will be leading the activities. We'll be working with our teachers here to align the activities and the lessons so that it enhances what they've already learned, and then they'll get that hands-on experience over in the lab. We'll be able to pay for this program and, again, provide transportation through our Title I funds. And we will continue our Ride and Read program with the Glenview Park Public Library. And, again, we'll be able to cover transportation and the funding of paying for our teachers to work to be tutors over the summer. And the great thing about this particular partnership is our students learn how to use the library. They realize that it's more than just a place to get books. They can participate in activities, and they can also borrow equipment. And then their parents also learn about the different activities that are available to families beyond just our students. And then this is a new partnership with Wesley Childcare. They have been able to secure some additional spots for our students who are most in need, and they'll be able to, parents are able to choose between a 1 or 9 week program, whatever fits their schedule, and within that weekly timeframe, 2 to 5 days a week. And the great thing about this one, it's an extensive day, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. We are not able to provide transportation, but we believe this will be a great experience for our students because of the length of time. And then the Glenview Youth Services, Glenview Northbrook Youth Services have created special summer fun programs for the 3 Title I schools, Springman, Hoffman, and Westbrook. And right now, we really only have details about Springman, but basically what they'll do is they'll give them experiential learning. They'll go to places around town and be able to work on some social emotional skills, particularly developing social emotional learning skills, how to navigate friendships and get along with each other in a sense. And then we'll be able to expand that to our Westbrook and Hoffman students too. More details to come. So we are very grateful to our community for stepping up and helping us to round out the summer experience for our students, because we know that we cannot do this alone. And we're thankful for your partnership.
Thank you. So we just wanted to give you a kind of a sneak peek of some summer programming and opportunities in partnership with others. So thank you, Raquel, for that update. So, I'll have other comments throughout the whole evening, so we'll just leave it at that.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, next we're moving on to our audience comments. This is the first opportunity for audience comments. Anyone wishing to address the board can submit a comment card available at the check-in table and give it to Executive Director of Communications and Strategic Planning, Becca Latham. The Executive Director will call community members who submit cards forward. They will be asked to introduce themselves and describe their relationship to the district. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. And please know that the board will be in listening mode only and taking notes. And an appropriate response will be given in a timely manner. We also ask that you submit 1 comment per opportunity. There will be another opportunity. Rebecca, do we have any comments?
We have 2. The first one is Jean Whitford.
Thanks. You could please, come up here so everyone on TV can hear too.
There you go. Oh my goodness. Hello, hello. Testing, testing. Oh, good evening, members of the board. My name is Jean Whitford. I am a current EL teacher, Glenview community member, and parent in District 34. Quick shout out to Flory and some other unsung heroes on the back end of the fight that I'm going to describe. I come before you today to express my deep concern, frustration, and disappointment with the current state of how we're supporting our immigrant families, especially in light of the pressures and uncertainty brought on by the new administration in Washington. As of today, as an educator in this district, I personally feel better trained and informed on how to shield my students from an active shooter than how to respond to questions raised by students such as, am I safe coming to school? Is an ICE officer going to come in my school and get me? In our own strategic plan, we state that we develop partnerships with experts to increase equity and inclusivity, as was just proved, and increase input and engagement opportunities for families and community, especially for those that have been underrepresented. A generic email was sent out to staff on January 24th in response to our growing concerns, but printed out on a blank document were links to resources that maybe we could share with families. It was unclear, but what was clear was that that the families needed to ask us for resources instead of us offering resources to them, which makes me personally feel as if I might possibly be reprimanded for letting a family know their rights under the Constitution of the United States. This response is what's led me to speak today. Where was our administration and board months ago when we knew that this was coming? I believe there was another voice in the community last December speaking to this very point. The only responses that we were receiving was, we're working on it, we're waiting to hear from our lawyers. Well, why did we need a lawyer to tell us that it's okay to talk to children about their family's rights under the Constitution? Our immigrant families are struggling right now, and I see no clear proactive response from this board to address the specific challenges they are facing due to our current political climate. What are we doing to ensure our immigrant students feel safe and supported, especially when their parents might be living in fear of deportation or other disruptions to their lives? How are we keeping our community informed about their rights and how federal policies may affect them? We cannot afford to remain passive while our families, who are already vulnerable, are being pushed to their limits. I believe we need to step up and take meaningful action. We need to prioritize providing clear, accessible information to families about their rights and ensure that our staff is trained to handle the unique challenges immigrant families are facing right now. We need to ensure that our schools remain havens of stability and support, especially for those who might be most affected by current federal policies. It's not just about words, it's about ensuring that our actions align with the values that we claim to uphold. Our immigrant families are counting on us to stand with them in this uncertain time. And it's time for us to stop talking and let's start doing. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your comments.
And our second is Jillian Matthews.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm Jillian Matthews. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Former third grade teacher at Hoffman and current parent to 3 children in the district at Hanking, Hoffman, and Springman. I fell in love with this community and school district when I began teaching here in my very early 20s. And when it came time for my husband and I to decide where to move and settle down when we started having kids, there was no doubt Glenview was where we wanted to be. With no ties to anywhere else in the area, we chose Glenview because of the strong schools and diverse community. We are here tonight as concerned parents and community members and want to address a disturbing pattern of anti-Semitism at Springman. In the last 12 months alone, I've personally been in contact with the administration at Springman about 2 separate anti-Semitic incidents involving students. Most recently, on January 31st, swastikas were found in the 7th grade boys' bathroom. Reportedly, the custodial staff promptly removed them, but when asked about the incident, there was seemingly no investigation and no communication to families. The sad reality is this is not an isolated incident. As one Springman teacher told his students, quote, "He knows exactly when the 7th graders are learning about World War II and social studies because this happens every year." Our schools claim to have a zero-tolerance policy when it comes to hate, yet this pattern suggests anti-Semitism is very much tolerated in our schools. I'm asking the school board to take immediate and decisive action to create a safer environment for all students and staff, regardless of their background. Specifically, the following should be prioritized and implemented immediately. Number 1, increase anti-hate education programs focused on combating anti-Semitism, racism, and other forms of hate for students and staff in all buildings. The Anti-Defamation League's website is a fantastic resource for such curriculum and programs. Number 2, create easy to access confidential reporting systems for students and staff who witness or experience anti-Semitism. All schools need to consistently document and report incidents and complaints to comply with state and federal standards and laws. These are hate crimes and should be reported to local authorities every single time. Number 3, all school staff need to know and adhere to the response protocol and prioritize visibility at every school. All staff members should know their role in the response protocol and prioritize communication to families. Like you, I believe strongly in the mission and vision of our district. There is a unique opportunity here for us to learn from our mistakes and improve the process for how incidents of hate are addressed in our schools. Like any parent, I just want to send my babies to school and know they are safe and protected. I hope together we can make the necessary changes to ensure that is the case for all children here in the district. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. And that's it right now? All right. Next, we move along to one of my favorite presentations, the annual CFAC presentation, the 5-year financial projections from the Citizens Finance Advisory Committee. Eric?
Thank you. Excuse me, thank you. I'm going to invite Dr. Gina Melanasio to the microphone, and she's going to be the one who's representing the group and who's going to give our presentation tonight. And I will say, big shout to the rest of the CFAC group, who is pretty much all in attendance in the audience tonight, helping support Gina. So thank you all for coming out and showing your support.
Good evening, District 34 Board of Education. My name is Dr. Milanesio. I'm an educator, resident of Glenview, mother of 2 children in District 34, and current CFAC member. I will be presenting to you tonight the 2025 Financial Forecast Update on behalf of the Citizens Finance Advisory Committee. Tonight's presentation will begin with an introduction of important mission of CFAC. Tonight's focus will be on explanation of the base forecast, analysis, and recommendations. As a speaking representative of CFAC tonight, I wanted to begin with thanking the following members who offer their time and serve on the committee. As the representative tonight, I just wanted to take a few moments to thank and acknowledge the various stakeholders who serve on the committee. So CFAC is committed to present a 5-year financial forecast to the superintendent based on key assumptions discussed at committee meetings. It is important to point out that this is a projection and not a prediction. Why is this a key to tonight's presentation? It's important for all stakeholders to understand that much like a weather forecast, this financial forecast is affected by unforeseen circumstances, board intervention, and stakeholder action. We will see this tonight as we reflect on last year's presentation and this year's forecast. This forecast will cover operating funds only. Capital, debt service, and health, life, safety funds are not covered under the forecast. The CFAC committee has identified several key assumptions within the forecast. Due to a high inflationary period, CFAC has predicted a decreasing CPI, moving from 5% to 2.2% as emphasized in number 1. It's important to direct the attention of the board to number 7 and 8 on the slide on the assumptions, as the Preschool for All grant will generate revenue along with the expense item of the district no longer needing to abide by the Cook County Paid Leave Act that has provided a projected savings of $1.5 million. CFAC was also happy to see the board take action on a $2 million expense reduction. Because of this $3.5 million reduction in expenses, District 34 is now in a stabilizing period. In this presentation, the board will see that numbers look better than were previously shown due to the board's actions. Over the past 5 years, the district has been working tirelessly to renovate almost every space in the district. The district office was removed from the renovation, and as a result, the district office got taken out of the referendum plans. The district office is at a minimum in need of maintenance, which is included in the base scenario. The board gave CFAC a charge to explore 3 different funding scenarios for a district office renovation, which you see on the screen. The funding scenarios include a minimum maintenance scenario found in the base scenario of our presentation, a moderate maintenance with proceeds from a $10 million debt certificate, and heavy renovations from a $20 million debt certificate. The 3 scenarios are in several percentage points from each other, as we'll illustrate in the next 2 slides. The board is committed to a $34 million operating fund balance contribution. Such a contribution would drop the operating fund balance. However, there are several data trends that have changed due to interventions and circumstances. The key theme for tonight's forecast is change and stability. These include recent efficiencies, new revenues, and the minimum maintenance scenario projected fund balance at the end of the 5-year forecast period will be 44%. All of these will be explained further in tonight's presentation. It's important to note to the board tonight that at the end of the 5-year period, The district's previously projected operating structural deficit has been reduced largely due to efficiencies made by the administration and new revenues recently arriving into the district. There is a very important recommendation made by CFAC for tonight's presentation, and that is that the board remain mindful of the projected fund balance and continue to find ways to increase the balance with an aim to get above 50%, which we'll examine together in the upcoming graphs. CFAC wants to emphasize that this should come without negatively impacting instructional programs that are key to the success of children that District 34 serves. So looking at this graph, we've shown before this, this is a fund balance, percentage of total expenditures. This is the amount of funds on hand that we have as a percent of our annual expenses. So the green section is on top and represents 7 to 10 months of cash that we have on hand. This is a good position for the district to be in. The yellow section is 4 to 7 months of cash on hand. The red section is 0 to 4 months, and that requires immediate action. If we look back, we were in the green in FY 23-24. If you look at the graph, the trend continues downward. However, this trend is different from last year's presentation as we have entered into a stabilization period within the yellow. We'll discuss this more when we review over our recommendations. So it's important to take a look at this graph and to note that the scenarios are within several percentage points, and these were the scenarios that we presented earlier tonight. So the minimum maintenance scenario, the modest scenario, and the heavy scenario of funding the district office. So the full details of the funding scenarios are found within your board packet tonight, and CFAC would like to emphasize that they're in several percentage points of each other. So you may recall the slide from last year. CFAC wanted to point out that this is more stable from last year, and so our key theme, again, is stability. It's more stable because of the efficiencies that the board made last year. So this is based on CFAC's inputs, and this could change, but we wanted to emphasize the stability that we're entering into. So CFAC wanted to also recognize that there are variables that could change this projection, and these key variables have the potential to change the outcome. And so we thought of several variables, such as the district office building maintenance upgrades, the lower CPPRT following the pandemic, future actual student enrollment related to staffing, future residential developments, the CPIU, and the federal and state funding. As usual, CFAC wants to remind the board that there are variables that you don't have control over, and it's important to note. We have not built in any assumptions about changes in federal funding. Also, it's important to note that federal funding makes up about 3% of the total funding. To remind the board, these were the potential mitigation in last year's CFAC report. The highlighted options have been mitigations that have already been established. It is suggested that District 34 board keep looking for efficiencies. Since the last time CFAC spoke, we have gone out for referendum, and that was one of the last remaining concepts to explore. So even though we're in a stability period, District 34 is still not spending what you could. This graph of property taxes per pupil was shown in last year's presentation. Even though we have entered into a stability period, District 34 operates with considerably less revenue than most districts in the surrounding area. So if you look at the graph, we're looking at Northbrook 27, Northbrook 28, Northbrook Glenview 30, and Northfield 31. In comparison, it's significantly less.
Could you say that again?
Sure. I can repeat that if you like. It is suggested by CFAC to look for a way to increase your programming in order to offer thriving experiences for students. So we have two recommendations as far as like two types, short-term and long-term. The committee has offered some short and long-term recommendations moving forward. And so in the short term, we recommend for the annual exploration of potential efficiencies. CFAC concludes that all three district office options are fiscally reasonable for the board to consider. In the long term, it's recommended by CFAC to continue to monitor the operating fund balance. There's a projection stability period following reduced expenses and increased revenue. It is important to highlight that CFACT is not comfortable being in the 40% range. So if you can look at that in your board packets and go back to the graph, you can take a look that it's ideal that we recommend that we stay above 50% and never below 30%. These projected levels prohibit flexibility for future investments. It is recommended to recover the operating fund balance to an acceptable level within a reasonable amount of time, which would be above 50% by 2033. So I wanted to take this time to thank the CFAC members, superintendent, and the Glenview School District 34 School Board for giving CFAC the opportunity to present here tonight, and myself. Thank you so much for allowing me to represent the committee. This presentation completes CFAC's 5-year financial forecast charge for this year, and now it's up for discussion and questions.
First off, thank you. That was a great presentation. You guys did a lot of work, and it really was exciting to see some of the work that was done this year by the administration and the board to show up in the presentation. So that was great. Does anybody else have any comments, questions? We'd be really in the green if that referendum had passed, though, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I'd like to just offer a thank you, too, because I, over 33 years working in 6 different school districts across 2 states, I've never come across a group of caring citizens who are willing to work with a school board, and a school board that's willing to work with a group of caring citizens about the future finances of a school district. I can tell you it's very unique, and it's very beneficial to the school district. So thank you and to all the members who are here or not here tonight. Thank you.
Anyone else? If Jim was here, he might have a few more questions. I'll have him email him.
I could probably ask or make Jim's comment. Because
Good.
Jim always makes a comment every year about whether the structural deficit is actually real. And so, you know, as we pointed out, I mean, it's been rectified, at least from a projection standpoint, but not without significant, you know, challenge. That, you know, we got that rectified on the expense side, and that was a lot of difficult conversations this board had. I think the point of emphasis there is that slide showing the property tax revenue per pupil, and, you know, how much less this district spends compared to comparative districts. And that's really, you know, where our focus should be in the future. There's so much more we could do if we had, you know, if we had more on the revenue side. The charge to CFAC to take a look at those scenarios with regards to, you know, renovating the district office space. I think the main takeaway there from our discussion was when you lay it out from a debt service perspective, there isn't really a lot of difference. So that's useful for the board when we have those conversations down the road, looking at all options, not just renovation, in terms of what is CFAC comfortable with. And then I think my last thing is with a you know, green, yellow, red, you know, historically, we've always been in the green, going back as far as anyone on CFAC can remember. Richard, who had a longtime member, his last year on the committee was last year, but, you know, we asked him to rack his brain last year, and it always been above that 60% level. Speaking personally, I'd like to get up there aspirationally. We're not going to get there without a revenue change, i.e. A referendum, but I think that's just important to remember. The other thing that came out in our discussion, which I forget who mentioned it, but it was really, it really landed well, was, you know, we've been showing that multicolored thing for a while and been talking about what does it mean to be in the yellow. But this is the first year we'll actually be in the yellow. So when we've talked in the past about what the ramifications are, you know, operationally of being in yellow or, God forbid, being in red, you know, anything that Eric may have shared with regards to things like payroll warrants or what have you, that's been while we've still been in the green. So we should remain as a board, you know, vigilant about what that's going to look like as we now enter this period in the yellow. So just a little bit extra. to
Right,
have
we
those,
still get our majority of our revenue only twice a year, and it isn't always at the same times as it has been, so that could be more challenging as we move forward.
Yeah, and even though only 3% is federal funds, we should, as that page listed with variables, it'll remain a challenging situation for the next few years.
So our main challenge, really, I take away, is finding more revenue.
Yeah, Scott.
Finding more revenue.
Thank you to the CFAC and Alex and everybody. I know I pepper you with questions a lot, Eric, but I think that the simplest way that I rectify it is, and we got the legend correct here, the inversion of the orange and the blue line, right? It's caused confusion in the past. We're never going to change the slope of the line in the yellow unless we adjust the difference between the blue and the orange lines and invert it. So unless, because we've taken the actions on the expense side, unless there is a change on the revenue side, we can talk all we want about the things that we need to do, but they're not going to change the slope of the curve from yellow to more yellow and a different situation. So it just reinforces, with what you all have done, and looking at projections with some very sane and rational assumptions to build these projections out for board action and community action, frankly, so that we can avoid a slow-moving yet very real peril for the district.
We want to avoid the death spiral, because once you start getting into it, you can't get out of it. Any other thoughts on the presentation? It was really good. Thank you for serving.
Thank you, guys.
All right, next we'll move along to consideration of resolutions, our consent agenda. We have the 25001 personnel report, the 25002 payroll warrants, and the 25003 vendor warrants. Can I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved, Dolan.
Second, Kamalevich.
Gabby, may I have a roll call?
Supos. Nelson.
Aye.
Dolan.
Aye.
Kamalevich.
Aye.
Moon.
Aye.
Stefani.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now we'll move along to our consideration of other resolutions, discussion and action. We have the 25004 Springman and Westbrook Playground bid approval.
Good evening. I come before the board tonight to seek approval of two upcoming playground installations at Springman and Westbrook. So a little background, District 34 and Glenview Park District have a long-standing relationship of playground replacements. We actually have a playground replacement schedule that goes out 40 years, and that's been put into the IGA that we both have. So Springman was up for replacement in 2026, but because of the condition of some of the equipment and a special request, special needs, both parties agreed to move it up to this summer, 2025. So we went out to bid for the playground installation and equipment at Springman, and we also were able to bundle a Westbrook outdoor learning space with this bid. We have the ability to do an outdoor learning space, and so we bundle them both together. So we went out to bid, we received 4 bids, and Playground Safe was low bidder at the Springman installation and Westbrook installation. So tonight I'm asking for board approval to approve both Springman and Westbrook Playground and outdoor learning space for summer of '25.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Discussion? All right, then I'm going to ask for a motion and a second to approve a resolution as presented.
Second, Dolan.
Gabby, may I have a roll call?
Nelson.
Aye.
Dolan.
Aye.
Kamalevich.
Aye.
Moon.
Aye.
Stefani.
Aye.
Supos.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have the 25005, 2025 capital improvements, renovations at Henking and Westbrook.
So with us tonight is Chris Huasco from Nicholas & Associates. They're our construction management firm, and they will be overseeing the summer 25 renovations at Westbrook and Hanking, and also pavement replacement at Hanking School.
Yeah, so bids came in really, really good. Hard costs, a little under 1.4 million. Basically, we're going into Hanking and Westbrook, touching some of the rooms we have not touched in the last 3 or 4 years. Music rooms, art rooms, drama rooms, some resource rooms, and then getting the Hanking parking lot redone. So, pretty straightforward.
And it's all over the summer, right?
Oh, yeah, all summer work, so.
And Steve, is this part of our long-term maintenance plan?
Yes, this is part of the 10-year long-term maintenance plan that we've discussed in the past, and it's much less work than we have over the last 4 summers, so we don't foresee any problems with getting the work done over this summer.
So we're also being cognizant of maintaining the new buildings that we've fancied up.
That is correct. You know, unfortunately, we had to cut out some rooms in the beginning, and we're able to go back and get these special rooms, art, drama, music, things like that. And there's a dire need for pavement replacement at our schools, which we also cut out back in the beginning, so we're able to tackle all these projects now.
All right, thank you. Are there any other questions?
One seemingly orthogonal question, but does any of the summer programming that we have now bringing in, which is great, is that going to be impacted at all by this? Even better. Okay.
All right. Well, without any more questions, could I have a motion and a second to approve a resolution as presented?
So moved, Kemalevich.
Second, Stefani.
Gabby, may I have a roll call vote?
Dolan.
Aye.
Kemalevich.
Aye.
Moon.
Aye.
Stefani.
Aye.
Supos. Nelson.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Get to work. We have the 25006 Glenview Public Library IGA Student Library Cards.
Would you like any summary? So real quick, it's in what we wrote, but just to give a little background on this, it's something we've been working on for a long time in order to provide. Basically, the easiest way to describe it is we had a population of students, around 500 students, who actually didn't qualify for a Glenview Public Library card because they were in or are in the Niles Township Library District. So when you're in another library sanctioned taxing area, it is difficult to then acquire a card in a different place. You can acquire a card in Niles and then use it in Glenview, but that also created some confusion and some complications. So the Glenview Public Library and their new leadership have been amazing in partnering with us on a wide range of items, this being one of them. And it allows us an opportunity. If you know, last year we started the process at registration where kids who do not have a library card can simply, parents can check it, and a library card will be printed and given to them. That same process now will apply to all students so that we can have all students from our group of schools actually have a card. It helps us in multiple ways when we're using the library, recommending the library as a service, but it also helps us because the library has services, online services like databases and other avenues that we no longer have to purchase because our students can access it through their Glenview Public Library card. And so again, it's another way for the library and us to not duplicate expenditures for the community, but instead benefit from us, what we feel and the library feels is a simple partnership that allows kids to have cards. It will have us, in terms of the IGA, using their space more. It frees up, we've, are excited to use their space for meetings and have priority for their space to meeting. They're excited to have us there so that they can talk about their programs. We have offered 15 to 20 minutes at each PD that we have for them to talk about their services and opportunities that our staff can benefit from with the library. So we feel that it's a win-win and very excited about it.
Any questions?
Just want to say, I was really excited when I read through this on the weekend, because it seemed like just an obvious, thing to try to fix, but I also, even then, understood this probably really thorny to get through. So I really appreciate you guys getting this across the finish line.
It was difficult because Niles had to release.
Yeah.
Like when you deal with multiple taxing bodies and multiple different entities that need that user base, it was something that I want to credit Lindsay and her leadership team at Glenview Public Library for really taking it to the next level and moving it forward.
Yeah, I was just going to say kudos to you. Thank you to the library board. It is a fantastic, I'll say, complementary asset to the schools that we have to have a really good quality library and library system. And it's great that everybody will be able to access and utilize it. So kudos to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the Glenview Public Library Foundation's having a fundraiser on March 1st. All right. Can I ask for a motion and a second to approve the resolution as presented?
So moved. Dolan.
Second, Moon.
Gabby, may I have a roll call?
Kamalevich,
Aye.
Moon,
Aye.
Stefani,
Aye.
Supos, Nelson,
Aye.
Dolan.
Aye.
Motion carries. We have the 25007 Skyward New Software Agreement.
So, Dr. Dorkin and I have been working closely with Skyward, our current software company, and they are phasing out the current software model and reintroducing a new version of it. And so what we have before you is an agreement to both get the company to host us in the new software and help us transition our 10 years worth of previous data over into the new system, help us with setup, training, things like that. Right now we're planning on a 12-month transition period, April of 25 to April of 26. So April 1st, 26, get our new payroll, new accounts payable, new HR will all go live, and we'll kind of go from there.
Any questions on this?
Do we know if we're early adopters or mid adopters?
We're late adopters.
Oh, good, okay.
And the reason why we waited a little longer
It's 'cause
was
you're smart?
we're smart,
Yeah.
and we've already tapped into several districts. We took our departments over to Wheeling 21 last week and spent a couple hours with them, having some really good discussion about what could we do better on the data cleanup and the transition. So luckily, we've got contacts for each of our staff, their counterpart there, have their phone numbers, and we'll be working closely with them throughout the next year or so until we go live.
Yeah, I read this and winced a little bit because professionally I've been involved in way too many as the early adopter, and you do all their beta testing, and it's just horrendous. So I'm glad to hear that.
Yes.
Nice work.
Yeah. Will there be operating efficiencies that you'll be able to use within this, or is it just a new software package?
I think there'll be some, but they're also pushing us to move from the old. They're slowly diminishing their support team for us, and so it's time.
All right. Can I ask for a motion and a second to approve the resolution as presented?
So moved, Kamalevich.
Second, Dolan.
Gabby, may I have a roll call?
Moon,
Aye.
Stefani,
Aye.
Supos, Nelson,
Aye.
Dolan,
Aye.
Kamalevich.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes. Next, we move to the 25008, approval of resolution authorizing appeal of True North withdrawal petition disapproval decision.
It's a mouthful, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, you did well. So, by way of review here, I think it's important to just remind everyone that this board approved a resolution to withdraw from True North Education Cooperative on December 16th at that board meeting. It may have seemed like a long time ago, but we did that as a required step in the consensual withdrawal process from the co-op. A copy of that approved resolution and fact sheet was sent to all member districts on December 20th. And each member district was required to pose the D34 withdrawal request at their respective board meeting within a 60-day calendar day time period, which I believe was yesterday. I did the math earlier today and I've already forgotten, but I think that 60 days started and ended as of yesterday. You might also recall that in order for District 34 to exit the cooperative, a unanimous affirmative vote would need to be obtained from all of the member districts.
17 besides us.
Yes. To date, we have received official confirmation from 2 school districts that our petition was rejected. So that tells us, just by definition, that this will not be a unanimous acceptance to be able to withdraw. And so with that information, I'm suggesting that the board consider appealing the disapproval decision. That that appeal rather would go to the Maine Township Trustees of Schools, which is in accordance with the Illinois School Code and as outlined in the resolution that you have before you this evening. Then a public hearing would be held in March on this matter before the case is actually advanced for a disposition before the Maine Township Trustees of Schools. I should remind you also that, this appeal sort of resides within the consensual withdrawal process. There is another component that we can pursue if necessary, and that's the non-consensual process that's outlined in the Articles of Agreement. But I'm recommending that we appeal the rejection of our request to leave, and it would be done with the Maine Township Trustees of Schools.
All right. Any discussion or question?
Debbie, what's the time frame of this appeal? Once it's made, township, how long it will take?
Well, there aren't specific time periods that are associated with the appeal, at least as outlined in the school code, as I understand it right now. But I do know that the Maine Township Trustees of Schools does not, that's not a body that meets, I don't believe, maybe Eric, you know better, on a regular basis. So they only meet periodically throughout the course of a fiscal year. But we would want to get our appeal to them as soon as possible for them to render a decision so that we know if we need to go down the non-consensual path or not.
For the 2 school districts that you were alerted to as not supporting our consensual withdrawal, was there any additional context, rationale, or reason as to the outcome of the vote?
Unfortunately not. They just, they submitted to me via email the vote tally from the action of their board meeting.
I've watched a few of these board meetings. There was one school district that didn't even get a motion and a second to actually hold a vote. So they had no discussion about it, basically. All right, without that, I'm going to ask for a motion and a second to move to approve the resolution authorizing the appeal of the disapproval decision related to District 34's petition to withdraw from True North Educational Cooperative 804. Are there a motion and a second?
Second.
Gabby, may I have a roll call vote?
Nelson,
Aye.
Stefani,
Aye.
Supos, Dolan,
Aye.
Kemelovich.
Aye.
Aye.
Moon?
Say my name.
And Moon.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Please submit this as soon as possible. Next, we'll move on to our discussion section. We have our strategic plan update.
Thank you.
Rebecca.
Do we want to cue that up? Well, let me just, there we go. A quick couple of comments here. As you know, we're in year one of a 3-year strategic plan. I want to again thank all the representative members of the planning committee who spent their time and emotional and intellectual energy in creating the plan. Thank you, Dr. Dolan, for serving as the board representative in this process. It really, I think, represents impressive work with a lot of stakeholder involvement. We wanted to simply share some high-level progress on the plan thus far, and it's important to know that unlike previous plans, this plan is structured to be viewed through 3 particular lenses, which you'll see on the next slide: student success, equity, and fiscal sustainability. Now, those lenses in previous plans would have been standalone sections of the plan. Instead, the committee chose student success, equity, and financial sustainability to be the lenses through which all of our work is done. And so that's, I would say, one fundamental difference between this plan and previous plans. 3 main goal areas: belonging and well-being. These are, I'm not going to read all this, but the headings are worth reinforcing. Belonging and well-being, an inclusive D34 community ensures all members feel welcome, safe, supported, and valued. The second, creativity and innovation, relevant learning experiences nurture curiosity, foster agency, and inspire engagement and achievement. It's not just inspiring to achieve, it's achieving. And then finally, collaboration and community, strong teams and partnerships enhance educational experiences to support growth and success. You can see the strategies listed here. They're probably easier to see for folks online at home. But with that introduction, Becca, you can take it from there. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for that kickoff there. So we just want to give a quick reminder of some of the definitions that we're going to go through tonight. So as Dr. Deli mentioned, we have our goals, which are our high-level statements that kind of help frame the whole strategic plan. Our strategies are the overall plans or the approach of how we try to get to our goals. The objectives are the specific and measurable targets, and then the tactics are actionable steps. So what we're going to go through tonight, as the top 3 are goals, strategies, and objectives were already outlined through all of the committee work. Tonight, what we're really going to go through is the tactics and our actionable steps of how we'll get to accomplish our strategic plan. And we're not going to watch it, but I just wanted to put it in here as a reminder for anybody that is going to look at the presentation later on, that we have this adorable video that was created that kind of gives another high-level overview of our strategic plan when it was updated. And as I mentioned, administrators have taken some steps to help finalize our plan and put together our steps that we'll be taking to help us accomplish our goals. So tonight we'll review those steps and then also share a new dashboard that we have available on our website now for the community to be able to monitor progress towards our strategic plan. Our first goal is, as mentioned, belonging and well-being. And for our first objective, we want to ensure that all students experience an increase in feelings of safety and belonging. And we have been very deliberate in embedding specific questions into our panorama, which is our social emotional learning screener for children, and staff feedback survey, so that we can use the data to build more responsive systems for students, staff, and our whole school community. We continue to examine different delivery models to provide family educationals to ensure we are attracting as many participants as possible. So for each of our slides we'll go through tonight, you'll see the goal and each of the objectives, as well as the tactics that we're going to use to achieve each of our strategies and objectives that are outlined here. I'm not going to read through them all, but you can certainly check them out on the slides if you'd like. For our second objective, we want families to report an increased sense of belonging as members of our school community. Families will strengthen their sense of belonging in our community by engaging in surveys, leadership cohorts, expanded council membership, mental health education, and enhanced programming. And objective 3, we want to increase the number of candidates, teachers hired, and total staff members from underrepresented demographics. These efforts began with our Superintendent's Advisory Committee in 2002. We continue to work towards strengthening our support for current staff members and broaden the demographic profile of our educators through the various initiatives outlined on this slide. Our second goal is creativity and innovation. And the first objective is that our students in all student groups will show an increase in growth and achievement on available assessments. And during this school year, the Tier 1 curricular focus area is math. Staff have been receiving professional development in this content area throughout the year. Staff for grades 6 through 8 have been updating and aligning these standards in their respective content areas as well. And a continuation of this objective, these objectives are in progress, and our building staff and leadership teams utilize all district and state data to inform differentiated instruction while developing small group instruction. And one more slide for objective 1. Each school year, students across all groups will show increased growth and achievement. Assessments such as access for English language learners and DLM for students with significant cognitive disabilities will guide areas of focus and support, fostering a more inclusive learning environment during Tier 1 instruction. And for the second objective, we want all students to exhibit an increase in their display of identified dispositions. And student dispositions have been created. The rest of this objective is on target for future implementation and development. For objective 3, we want students to demonstrate an increased engagement in their learning. The Pathways to the Seal of Biliteracy programming is fully underway. Late arrival professional development has had a focus on student engagement, along with new kindergarten through 5th grade math program and specific middle level strategies. Additionally, we have an exciting new STEM nights that are being facilitated this year to engage students and families in shared learning experiences. Buildings are continuing to create activities and strategies designed to build engagement, connections, and a strong sense of belonging in classrooms and their school. For objective 4, staff will have an increased opportunities for professional development to support innovative and culturally responsive practices and interdisciplinary instruction. The late arrival professional development schedule is designed to provide all staff with hands-on learning that can be applied immediately in the classroom. A comprehensive professional development plan is created through staff feedback, achievement data, and discussion within the building governance structure. These tactics outlined are being met through staff evaluations of district professional development, student achievement data, and discussions through their building leadership. And our third goal is collaboration and community. We want to see an increase in community organization partnerships to support our targeted areas. We will work on strengthening community and organizational partnerships by bolstering parent advisory committees, hosting family engagement events, expanding mental health support for students, staff, and families, and collaborating to offer summer experiences through activities, events, and camps. For objective 2, we want to see an increase in programs, partnerships, and activities between schools and family groups. We have a process in place that will continue to grow based on feedback each year. We are invested in providing healthy and transparent transition activities for children and families, whether they are changing buildings or during grade level transitions. And for objective 3, we want families in the community to report an increased level of engagement in our school system. We know how important it is for families to be involved in their children's education. Through various initiatives, we will continue to grow involvement of our families in our school district. As an additional note, this week, families will see an email coming out about the annual 5 Essentials survey. As you might see in some of the tactics outlined here, we use the 5 Essentials data very frequently to use as measures for how we are achieving the goals outlined in the strategic plan. So I just wanted to put a little plug out there that it's very important for us, for families to help us by filling out the survey. And finally, we have a new dashboard that is now live on our website. If families go to About District 34 on our website, and then they click on the strategic plan page, we have this dashboard that outlines the different tactics that we presented here tonight. And then it also helps to show where we are in the progress. So some of the tactics you'll see have a specific date of when we're looking to accomplish each goal, and then some of them might be a future initiative that we are planning for but haven't yet accomplished. So this dashboard is now live. We'll update it each trimester with where we are in the process. And then moving forward, annually we can provide updates on the progress towards our initiatives and then preview what's coming for that next school year. Just give a lot of information. So are there any questions?
Thank you. Rebecca, you can take a breath for a second. I thought it would be important to just also say that any good strategic plan is dynamic. It's not static. So there, you'll see dates and time frames and certain deliverables, but when we're immersed in the work, there are sometimes unforeseen challenges, or we identify work that in order to be thoughtful needs to be deeper and might take a little bit longer. And so we think we've developed a plan that's responsive to changing conditions. So I think that would be one other thing to emphasize. But we're happy to. We have our leadership liaisons here who stand ready, willing, and able to address any questions that you might have. Just look at the looks on their faces.
I just want to say I greatly appreciate the amount of work that's going into this. I do think it really matters to do this work and have this scrutiny. And I was looking at some of those, and some of those we may not see movement, and that in itself is actually a useful thing to conclude on. So yeah, I recognize there's a lot of work, but it is greatly appreciated, so thank you.
I'm happy to see a dashboard.
Love a dashboard.
Love a dashboard. And it's live. I'm looking at it. Any other thoughts, or?
And we want to be in the green.
We always
just
want to be in
to
the
pick up on our color coding from the earlier presentation.
Blue's good too, right?
Blue's good. Blue's good also. Yes.
That's where I like to ski, greens and blues.
And thanks to everybody for starting to pick up some momentum and some steam. I think the biggest thing that becomes valuable coming out of the exercise is being able to shake the data for something that then converts to meaning, right? And I know it's a journey, and we're walking this together. But now I think we're going to be able to see very tangible value and return on effort and investment and use of resource and focus and all of those things from a communicative standpoint that extend beyond an individual performance or student. As a parent, how does my student perform, to how are we performing across populations, how are we performing within cohorts, how are we performing across and within schools, to really represent the value of the efforts that are put forward by the administration, by the teachers, by all the other professionals on behalf of the students. So I think this is this is the start of the marathon, so very exciting.
Thank you. Great work. Thanks. Now we have the 2025-2026 staffing allocations.
Thank you. Let me just switch screens here with Becca. All right. So thank you very much. I just have a few slides that will help summarize the memo that the board has. First, I would remind the board, this process really starts back in the fall when we take a close look at enrollment, looking at how we were projected to land with the start of the school year versus where we landed, then the updated projection for students coming in next year and beyond, and then conversations at the leadership level and with building level leadership, as well as cabinet, to figure out what adjustments, if any, we want to make for the coming year. And then that brings us to the recommendation you'll hear about this evening. I couldn't waste the opportunity to just put this back on the screen again, and Dr. Deli already commented on this, but these lenses have now become an additional helpful part to this process. So when we were discussing at the cabinet level, student success is fairly obvious at first glance, but we're talking about not just academic success, but their creativity in the classroom with their teachers. We're talking about social emotional learning, and our staff obviously are the ones who deliver on all the things that lead to student success, of course, in partnership with our families. Our work to create an equitable school system is ongoing always. We put a lot of effort and thought into how we can make this a positive school experience for all children and all families, increase access, close gaps and opportunities. So equity is a critical piece of how we're thinking about creating a staffing plan. And then, of course, always the financially sustainable piece, not only how we choose to allocate the resources, but the sources of those resources. And I'll talk a little bit about some different sources in upcoming slides. So I've spoken before with the board about the three main variables that influence our staffing, and it just is helpful to repeat these. These, of course, can evolve over the course of any given year. So the biggest one is student enrollment, and that influences what's happening at each school and at each grade, classroom teachers, middle school teams. Caseloads would refer to specific numbers of kids receiving specific services. So examples would be children with IEPs, children receiving support with learning English. And then program needs would be staff that we need to deliver specific programs which may not be dependent on either of the top two things I already referenced. So things like middle school encore classes, intermediate science instruction, our LRCs in every single school, those are more program-based examples of where we need our staff. So a very high-level summary of this notion of how things can evolve over the course of a year. Last year in April, we brought forward a recommendation the board approved on the certified side for 447 FTE of certified staff. By present, just a little bit earlier this month, that had evolved to 451 FTE, and I'll talk about what drove that change. That's a difference of increase of 4 FTE. And we're recommending this evening next year an FTE of 457.3, which would be an increase of 6.3 FTE from the current level. That's certified. On the support staff side, same thing. Back in April, the board approved 248.6 FTE of support staff. A lot of things can change in our support staff picture over the course of a year. So up to present moment, we increased 11 FTE since that approval in April. That's driven by things that I'll talk in a future slide a little bit more depth, but students moving in who have complex needs with an IEP, we had staff to support that on the support staff side. And we are recommending next year 255.1 FTE, which is actually a decrease of 4.5 from current levels. But again, I would say that that could change even before the end of this year, let alone by the beginning of next school year. So what drives those changes? So currently, we've already mentioned this evening in discussing that summer programming, but we had a larger than typical influx during the school year of Title I funds. So we met as a cabinet and talked about how we can really leverage those funds in high impact ways for our students. And so we added 2 multilingual teachers at Springman. a psychologist for specialized programming to support programming at Westbrook, and a primary behavior specialist where we got creative and, thanks to Raquel and Kristen's efforts, braided funds so that Westbrook, the Title I building, would receive the bulk of this role, and then Henking and Lyon would receive some support as well through IDEA funds. So that led to that 4.0 increase that I mentioned on the slide previous to our certified staffing this school year. Continuing into next school year, what will drive that change? So I talked about the lever of enrollment. We are looking to have a fairly flat K-5 classroom, 6-8 grade level team staffing overall next year. There are changes in specific grade levels, but the end result of that FTE is flat. And that's inclusive of our first year of the dual language setting phase out that we've talked about with the board. And I believe Raquel will add some additional comments about the phase out.
So the proposal that I submitted to the board through a memo about shifting bilingual Spanish services from the Hanking-Hoffman cohort setting of dual language back to the homeschool is essentially in response to where the students are currently, where their parents are choosing to receive the services. So essentially 75% of our students who qualify for EL services and their home language is Spanish, the parents are opting to remain at the homeschool rather than to join a cohort setting at Hanking or Hoffman. So currently we offer two options for parents whose children qualify for EL services and home language is Spanish. They could stay at their homeschool. They're guaranteed EL services, English language services. They may also be able to work with a bilingual teacher. We made that adjustment 2 years ago by guaranteeing a bilingual Spanish EL teacher in every building. But what we didn't anticipate was that more parents are opting for the homeschool setting in lieu of the dual language. And we did survey our families why that was happening. Why are you choosing dual language? Why are you not choosing the dual language setting? And what we're hearing is a slew of things. One, they want their kids to be at their homeschool so that they don't have to, be transported to outside of the neighborhood. So they want them with their neighborhood peers. The other piece was that they're in a cohort where they're together sometimes from preschool all the way to 5th grade. And they're in with the same group of kids. It doesn't give them the ability to integrate on a daily basis as their other peers would be able to have. So they wanted more of a diverse classroom experience for their children. And every year, again, they're with the same kids, so they're following this cohort of students. And when they got into the middle school setting, parents were reporting that the students were struggling, being able to make friends. They didn't really have to practice those skills. And we did put a program in place with youth services support. SAIL is a special student program we created to help implement some of those, to help them build some of those social emotional skills, but that wasn't enough. And so what we are proposing is a 3-year phase out of our dual language bilingual setting to guarantee and shift those bilingual services back to the homeschool. And this is also in response to, we did conduct a self-evaluation of our services as recommended by ISB's multilingual department. And we did find that we fell short on providing bilingual EL support for students whose home language is Spanish. We are not currently guaranteeing that at the homeschool, and so we would like to make sure that we're making that correction. And we will make that adjustment over the next 3 years with this phase out.
So that change in 25-26 leads to no net difference in the FTE at the classroom level. So that's the first bullet here. But depending on where the sections adjust at different grade levels, there is a very small decrease in related art staffing, so fine arts, PE, et cetera. We are recommending an increase in EL teachers by 2.0 FTE at Glen Grove and Westbrook. This is primarily intended to serve our Mongolian-speaking students, which we've seen a really nice increase in those families moving to Glenview. We're recommending an increase in 3.0 LBS 1 teachers at our intermediate buildings. We have seen an increase in the challenges and the needs of the students that we're servicing, particularly at this intermediate level. That will be funded through IDEA grant funds. And then we're recommending a small increase, 0.5, in our OT and PT services. This will further strengthen our independence from the True North Cooperative and better service our students in these areas. And finally, the board heard CFAC reference the Preschool for All grant. We're increasing, small increase in the number of preschool class sections and a commensurate increase in the time we're dedicating to preschool coaching, all funded through the Preschool for All grant. So in total, that's the 6.3 increase that we're recommending moving from current to next year that I referenced on the previous slide. On the support staff side, this year, the increase that we saw during the year to this point was, again, I referenced this, newly enrolled students with IEPs. Some years we have an exceptionally large number that move in during the year, and then some years that number also involves a complexity that we want to make sure we meet those needs, and so that led to some additional support staff being added. And then again, with the influx of those Title I funds, we added a few support staff positions, one at Hoffman, one at Springman, to support Ukrainian-speaking students. So that's that 11.0 increase we saw since last April to present. And moving forward for next year, we're recommending there's going to be a slight decrease in the building-based associate support that's based on total building enrollment. We are projecting at this moment a decrease in IEP-based associates and a decrease in dual language classroom associates. I mentioned that there's no net difference in FTE at the classroom teacher level, but with the sunsetting of the program at K and third, we will have one fewer associate at each site. So that's a decrease of 2.0 for a total decrease at this moment projected to be 4.5 on the support staff side. So what's next is we will come back in March with any updates to this plan, and we would request the board's approval of that at the March 18th meeting. And I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Any questions? All right. I guess we'll see you in March.
Thank you.
All right, now we have the 2025-2028 General Education Transportation Contract that you've been foreshadowing for a few years now.
So after 11 years with Alltown, we went out to bid, and actually Alltown emerged the low bidder out of 7 bids. 3 declined, 4 submitted. And what the numbers show in the first year is an increase of just 5%, increase in the second year of 2%, and then in the final year, an increase of 3%. So given the service and the relationship and the numbers, I think this is a solid offer by them, and keeps us slightly below what we had projected, so that's always good.
Were the other bids, were they in the area of being competitive, or?
A couple were not.
Yeah, okay.
It's easier probably for a current incumbent to know exactly kind of how it goes and get as tight as they can.
And you like that relationship with Alltown too, right?
I do, and if you think about the last number of years as we went through the pandemic, not to brag or make any other districts jealous, but we had far fewer issues with driver shortages and things like that, in part because of this board's foresight and ability to make certain compensation decisions during the pandemic. Those drivers all stayed on except for a small number. So, yeah, I think given all things considered, yes.
And we'll vote on this next month.
Yes, please.
And, right, any other questions? Because we can move to the 2025-2026 Special Education Transportation Contract Extension.
That's right. So similarly, I think we have a good relationship with Safeway, and this is just a one-year extension based on the way the laws work, and so they've offered a 2.9% increase over a current year. So we're recommending we go with a one-year extension for them as well.
All right. Thanks. Next, we have the Press Issue 117 Board Policy Update.
Yeah, thank you. I really, nothing of substance to note. This always is a wide range of, small editorial things to cross references and, the legal citations and things of that nature. So we'll bring this back again for final approval.
I noticed a lot of cross-reference changes.
Yes.
All right. Any other questions on press? Brings us to audience comments. Do we have any audience comments?
We do not.
Okay. Now we have our report section. We have the number 1 FOIA report, the number 2 referendum and expense report, the number 3 construction change order report, the number 4 current year financial report, the number 5 monthly budget report, the number 6 2023-2024 audited financials, and number 7 following meeting agenda. Anybody have any comments, thoughts, or questions on any of the reports?
I said it's been some time, and it's a question for Eric. On the monthly budget report, any notable moves? I was trying to do some cross-referencing and cross-checking, but it seemed similar, but I didn't recognize the 2 million. I thought it was a different number when we last spoke, so it just wasn't, in terms of the net impact, what we were projecting.
So you're talking about the current year
Yeah,
financial projection report?
Yes. And I couldn't remember if, it was the local funding update or the purchase services, if that was previous. Are there any changes?
There were changes. But I'm not, there's always an update to salaries and benefits because there's always a certain percentage that we don't fill for whatever reason, certain positions, certain times, et cetera, so that you're typically going to see that go up each month. But specifically, off the top of my head, I don't remember exactly what changed this month versus previous months, but it definitely went up.
I'll do my homework. I know the Preschool for All grant was something that was new, but I couldn't remember if there's anything else.
Local funding looks like it went up 340,000.
Oh, it did, local, yes. Projections from the treasurer were low, and so at this point, I think we can safely project an additional $375,000 in interest income. And maybe, don't quote me, that we did figure out the full $532,000 in preschool for all. So I think between those two, those are probably, 2 or 3 of those are probably the updates for this month.
Okay.
Trending in the right direction.
Trending in the right direction.
Yeah. Thanks, James. All right. If that is all, is there any other business? If not, we're adjourned.